So now when you are dealing with the data, there are two different set of data you broadly deal with. One, the data set which is manageable. Manageable means that you can able to open in a XLS or XLSX. The data which is not manageable, that means that you cannot able to open in XLS or XLSX to see your full data set. So there are very large, there are like for example, outsourced survey data. Those are not easy to open in a Excel. XLS has its own limitation. It has a certain limit of a variable to show, certain limit of observation only to show. So you cannot handle a large data set in a XLS or XLSS. So when you are dealing with a manageable data set, it is always advisable to use XLS or XLSX. So now why XLS, XLSX I am showing it. Still in India, many of the researchers based on the software availability, they are still using the older version of the Microsoft software, Microsoft Excel software, where the XLS file format is, if you have MS Office 2003, then it by default save all your file in the .xls, or previous version of 2003, always save the file in .xls only. And the XLSX is 2007 or later, all the files are saved in the .xlsx. So the XLSX has more feature than the XLSS, and this data is very sensitive with which file you are using it for your research for analysis. Like means, for example, you are calling the data or importing the data, Excel data. You should know first whether you are dealing with the XLS data or XLSX data. Because if any problem with the file format, it will not read or it will not import the data. So you have to be very careful with that. If you want to know about it, just right click the file, go to property, it will show whether it is .xlss or .xlsx. Of course, that Dr. Naga Kumari will be explaining you. So this is a basic background of it. And when you open a Excel sheet, by default, you are very familiar with, it will show sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4. But when you're dealing with the data in the Excel, the problem is whatever the data manipulation you're doing, you cannot able to document in detail. For example, you are changing the variable name from, for example, HS204 to maybe gender. So now Excel is not documenting whatever the changes you are making. So that is the biggest problem in the XLS. So my suggestion is whatever the changes you are doing it, you always have to document it. For that, you create a sheet one, you dedicate one sheet for documentation. For example, I'm just showing you sheet one, you call it as a definition. Okay, you instead of sheet one, you name the sheet one as a definition. In that, what is the data about that you are having in that Excel file? Variable list, variable description, what data transformation that you have done, from where you extracted the data. So try to document all the information as possible about the data in a single Excel sheet, single sheet, so that anytime you can go back to the definition, you can try to understand the data. So the other problem is we always believe that when you are working in the data, we have overconfidence that we can remember it. But you remember it will be in your temporary memory. And after 1 month or 2 months later, when you even go back to your data, you will end up forgetting it. So don't trust your memory. Try to document as much as possible through the Excel itself, so that even after 3 months or 6 months later, you go back to the file, you can able to understand very quickly by reading the descriptions. Okay. So dedicate one sheet for a definition. The second sheet, dedicate for a raw data. So raw data, be it the data that you're downloading from the internet, or it is the survey data that conducted by you, either 600, 700, even 1000 survey data that you collected. You put it in the sheet to call as a raw data, and don't touch the data at all. If at all you want to do certain changes, you copy the data, paste it in the sheet 3. You call that as a working file 1, working file 2. So now this working file 1, 2, it is depends upon the stages of process that you're doing for a data cleaning process. Okay. So it's not necessary it has to end with the 2, even some stages where you can go till working file 4, 5, 6 as well. So now what is the difference between working file 1 and working file 2? Any major data transformation that you're doing it, you better document the previous version so that anything you are doing it, you can do it in the second version. So if any mistake that you do in the working file 2, you can easily go back to the working file 1. You can redo the same thing. So that is what I'm telling you in the Excel. You cannot document the changes that you're making it, but you can do the changes very systematically so that you can save your time by realizing that this is a mistake you have done in the data transformation. You can go back to the working file and repeat again or correct yourself and do the working file again. So that way you can you can dedicate a sheet for working file 1, 2, 3, and 4. And finally, all the data transformation is done. You can dedicate one particular sheet for final data, where the final cleaned data ready for analysis purpose. Either you can export to the Stata or any statistical software that you can call. Okay. So any doubt here, or I can move on?
Sir, in case the data is already available in the data file, so how to manage it?
I'll come to that. So if it is already
Okay.
available in the Stata format, no problem. This is if what if the data is available in a different format? If it is available in the Excel format or if it is available in the other CSV or ACSI format only, I'm just explaining it. And most of the cross-section study as well, it is not necessary you will be conducting through the survey. Even many of the cross-section, for example, country level analysis, that you will be doing it. So thus that data you can download it from the World Development Indicator, and there are several other indicators which you have to download from different sources. So even the cross-sectional analysis, you will be depending upon the information from different sources. So you'll be collating all, and from there you are preparing a final data set, right? So in this case also, your Excel is very useful as long as you're doing the data cleaning process very systematically. So that is where the working file 1, working file 2s are coming in. So where the data, final data, which includes, which is inclusive of all the variables that are essential for your final analysis. And that you can call it to the data for any further regression or any advanced econometric analysis in the. So when you have data in a XLS or .xlsx format, the command is basically import. You are importing the data. So import what you are importing, your Excel is importing, right? So import Excel using. So using means you are import Excel using the address path. So the Excel file is in certain address path, right? For example, C drive, D drive. Again, you created a research paper 1 folder. So that data path you have to give along with the file name .xls or xls. So here it is data is very sensitive here, data xls or xlsx. So before writing xls or xlsx, make sure that file is either xls or xlsx, so that you can give that appropriate file name, then comma clear. Clear means whatever the data which is already opened or it is there in the data memory, it will clear it and it will call this data. And by default, if you give this first row, it will take the first row as a variable name. If you are not giving the first row, it will not call the first row as a variable name. First row means which is available in the Excel sheet. So when your final data, when you created, always you create with a variable name, right? Variable name, for example, serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, year 1990, 1991, 1992. So always the first row is always a variable information. So you are instructing this data that first row is the variable name. So clear first row and sheet. Now you have a 5 sheet here. Which sheet you have the final data? So you have to give that sheet. So sheet within the bracket, within the code, give either the sheet 5, or if you rename the sheet 5 as a final data, then you call final data. That's it. So if you run this command, it will import the data and it is ready for further analysis. Okay. So this works only for the data set which is manageable. That means the Excel could able to read the data. There are certain large file, the Excel could not able to read it. So now in the previous slide, you have seen that if the data is manageable, that means the data can able to open in the Excel and you can work in the Excel, you can manage your data cleaning process in the Excel data. Then you can follow the previous step. Suppose if the data is very large that cannot able to manage in the Excel, Then these are the data format that Stata also able to accept and read it. But majorly the researcher, I can say even 90 to 95% of the researcher often use CSV or ASCII format. And this SAS, SPSS, ODBC, DBase, these are all basically corporate research or corporate survey, the market survey data they do. So they often use a very large data set and they try to save it in this particular format and they have it. So mostly the researcher don't use this format, rather they use either the CSV or ASCII format. This ASCII format is a text in fixed format widely used for household survey data. Like an NSSO, there are various rounds of survey the NSSO conduct. That data are actually saved in the ASCII format, or even the NHFS data also saved. Now, some of the household survey data is well defined, even it is available in the CSV or in a TXT format or in a Stata format as well. But still, some of the household survey data are available in the ASCII format. If it is available in the ASCII format, then the process that you have to take to extract the data is entirely different. It is beyond the scope of the today's or this FTP. We are also planning to conduct another FTP related to the extraction of unit level survey data. So there maybe we can cover that in detail. So here presently what I am covering it is the CSV file. Suppose you have the data, very large data set, which is available in the CSV, that is delimited comma space value. In that case, these are the command that we widely use to call the data, import the data in this data that we can use for further analysis. So here as well, we call import, then delimited. So the nature of the file itself, it's a delimited, either comma space value. So import delimited using again the data path .csv. If it's a CSV file, you can use CSV or some file also available in a TXT format. So .txt clear. Or here in the advantage in this file as well, you can also call a particular column in a range or a particular row range as well by giving the command after option. So comma call range, start and end, starting column range and the ending column, then row range as well. Or you can use either combination of column and row, or you can use only for column or only for row, whatever that suits and as per the requirement. You can also use a in sheet for a TXT file, in sheet using the data file format .txt, comma clear. So in this way also, the Stata import the CSV format or .txt format in the